I think the public would get a far clearer insight as to what it's all about. Now, as we say, this program, Synanon, which is very similar to Alcoholics Anonymous in many ways, is in operation in the U.S. and has been for some time now. Frank, are you aware of any Synanon organizations in operation in Canada at this time?
There may be some, Joe. I'm not aware of their location. I know that in many areas of Canada there are all sorts of programs, but I think it has to come back to the fact that, as indeed, when you look at the figures and the success rate of some of the programs that have been mounted over the years, the amount of effort, time, and money put into these, I think that probably it would be wise to, in any community, and certainly at the level that we might have it here in Nelson at this time, to tackle the problem realistically from a different point of view, to tackle it on an informative, public basis with public cooperation. I know that many of the young users who are coming in contact with the drug scene, or the drug culture as it is called, themselves are bewildered. This leads me to a point, Joe, if I may digress for a while, that directly concerns us here in Nelson. Whilst I was here in the station yesterday morning, an individual, and this has happened, of course, in the past week or so, saw fit to what I call hassle one of our counselors at the center, that we were some kind of a pseudo-counseling agency set up in Nelson, that we weren't doing what we should be doing. Of course, this point of view has become very evident to us in the past couple of weeks. Our purpose is not to be a crash pad. Our purpose is not to dispense downers. We are a community services organization, and for the benefit of that individual and some other questions that came up yesterday after the program, we have dealt with, in the 30-day period of March, 881 situations, and I'll read them out quickly. Alcohol, 96. Beds and meals, 51. Critical suicidal, 9. Drug abuse, 107. Emotional disturbance, 69. Family disturbance, 73. Financial, 68. Immigration, 4. Labor relations, 21. Legal aid, 11. UIC, 11. Welfare, 62. Information, 189. Miscellaneous and education, 110. Now, this agency, the community services, we will offer counseling and on a short-term basis, and we will then refer the person to an agency that has the solution to their problem. The drug aspect of the thing is only one of our areas. The thing that disturbed us in this is, and the reason that we have become deeply concerned and other persons concerned, is that many of the persons who have contacted us, some of the young people particularly, some of the users, are bewildered. They're utterly bewildered, they're frightened, they're scared. They're also asked the inevitable question, what can anybody do? I've had representations from students in the community who are also concerned about this and the fact that it can exist so freely in the community, both on the streets, and it's available indeed even in some of the schools. So we are a bona fide, and we are not a pseudo-counseling organization. Anybody may come to us. We feel also one of our roles is, if we become aware of something which is a threat to the community, then it is our duty and a responsibility to make the community aware of this. And there are many, many concerned persons. So for the benefit of that individual, please don't hassle our staff. If you yourself promote the idea of a drug culture organization, be my guest. This is your body, as you say, this is your trip. But when you have a bummer, fella, don't expect the remainder of the community to bail you out. We adhere to we ascribe to your philosophy in that area, but please don't corrupt our youth. The other thing that happened yesterday on the way out of the station here is I received a call from an individual, and I asked him to call back this morning. Now, I hope he does, because I feel that what he had to say to me on the phone yesterday would certainly be of some value to the community at large. The fact that here in Nelson we have become aware of this one dangerous area, it is the age of the persons involved which I think should be of concern. When you get 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds being introduced to this by older persons. Sometimes there's a connection from the peer group, sometimes there's pressure from the peer group, sometimes the connection is through a boy-girl or girl-boy relationship. This is the kind of thing. The young persons themselves are bewildered, they don't know who to turn to, and this is why I would appeal to everyone in contact with youth in this city of ours to maintain an open-door policy, to open up lines of communication from the young people to you, to remove the punitive aspects from them, the young people in this city, assure them that they will receive honest, straightforward counseling and advice on this area, and that they will not be hit. On the other hand, I have a different point of view about the pusher. The pusher, as far as I'm concerned, my views are clear on this, is a person who should be isolated in this community. And I think it is possible to isolate him in such a way that he will become an unwelcome person in this or any other community. And let's make everybody aware of what his role, his or her, because there are both involved, his or her role is, and let everybody know about it.
Right. Thank you, Frank. I was just reviewing this report that you mentioned just a couple of moments ago, and I see the total number of contacts for the past month here was a high 881. This seems rather hard to believe that you would have that many contacts during the course of a 1-month period.
Well, it's not so unlikely, Joe, because if you look at the figure 189 for information, 110 miscellaneous and education, that reduces it considerably by, say, 300, so we get down to about 500. But as I say, I think that we have been instrumental in that center in providing a means of help to many, many people in the community, some older people, some middle-aged, some people with various problems that they themselves at that particular time were not able to cope with. We also have referred a considerable number of persons to other agencies, and they are in the process of getting the type of help that they should have had. And so for this individual or any other individual who is solely concerned with the fact that he himself, or maybe some of his friends or whatever area he is in, they would like us to be a benevolent type of organization that would provide them with safe crashing facilities and probably be given the authority to dispense downers so that they may come in and crash safely and then go out and get high again. We are not that kind of organization. We never, ever will be. This is for the community at large. This is only one part of our operations, Joe.
Very good, Frank. We've reached the point in our program again where we take our usual mid-morning break here as we come your way with our CBC feature presentation of Focus, and also a couple of messages as well. So we'll take a break on the program right now, and we'll be back with you, the listener, very shortly, at which time we'll open up our telephone lines and invite you to call in and pose your questions at that time. Once again here with the Open Line Show on KC Radio, and that's exactly what we're going to do right now. We're going to open up our lines to you, the listener, to submit your questions on the program this morning. Our guest, Frank Brady, is with us here. Our subject, of course, is drug addiction and the prevalence of this epidemic, which is spreading throughout the country. Our lines are open now at 352-2666. 352-2666. Our lines are open at this time for your calls, and we do invite you to get your calls in early.
One of the other questions that we got yesterday in receiving calls at the center was for the names of our city councilors and the names of our school boards, so I'm going to run through these very quickly. We have on City Council Mayor Maglio, we have Bill Freno, Kennedy Ficina, Bob Hustis, Ed Young, Keith Lacey, and I think it's John Sloan. John Sloan. I'll get on to the school board people later on.
All right. Okay, we have a caller on the lines right now. Good morning, the Open Line.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
I was the guy that phoned in yesterday and later, and it was about the atmosphere of the program. It's a negative attitude. I think you gotta. Well, you look at these kids and they don't know it's wrong. That's the problem. Like, they think it's right, and if you tell them it's wrong, you gotta show it to them. and you find that if you arrest them, they're martyrs, and it's a dead end. It's a dead end street if you try and do it by force. I know it sounds ridiculous to try and say you have to talk to them, but if you try it by force, you're going to start a martyr system, and it's because they have the feeling that it's that they're being oppressed, and then what they're doing is the only thing they've done right, because dope is it gives you a weird feeling, like it makes you feel like you're on top of the world instead of on the bottom, like where you really are, and you can tell them that, but they won't believe you because they're stoned, and I think that's the kind of attitude you gotta try and look at, and try and cope with that kind of attitude, because you can't. It has to be like what he said before. It has to be willpower if they're going to stop. It's not going to be laws or, it has to be from them if you're going to put any kind of a cure to it.
Yes, yesterday when you called me, you haven't made quite clear now, just right now, who you're referring to. On the phone yesterday when you phoned me, the emphasis of your remarks were relating to the pusher, not the user. You had some comments to make about the pusher. Would you repeat those comments, please?
Yeah, well, the pusher isn't exactly like the cloak and dagger thing. Like he's like you hear these ladies phone in and they want to hang the pusher, but it'll really scare them when their kid gets arrested, because that's what's happening. Like it's not a.
Well, who are the pushers? You said yesterday who the pushers were.
Well, they're just they're kids.
Are they Nelson kids?
Yes, they're just from the area. They're kids that are making a couple of bucks here and there. They're not. It's like a religion. They're helping their friends. They feel they're not trying to.
Don't they realize the dangers involved in introducing certainly their friends and the younger persons when they come in contact into the drug culture? Don't they realize the dangers?
No, they feel it's. They don't look at it that way. They think it's a beautiful thing and think it's the only beautiful thing that's left. Like you don't have to look at pollution. You don't have to look at this. You can just go up and get stoned and listen to a record.
Yeah, but how about the fact that they may be making a considerable amount of money from helping their friends?
There's not that much money in it unless you get into it really big times, and you can't do it in an area like Nelson.
You mean to tell me
there's too many? There's like you go like in Nelson, I'd say. If there's 2,000 people, I don't know how many people are doing it, but say 2,000 people are doing it, like everybody is a potential dealer. Like 1 minute this guy's doing it, and then he doesn't have any, and then he buys off the next guy. Like it's all interrelated. There's no dealers really. There's like a community.
Well,
support each other.
Okay, fine. Now you're suggesting. Now you say that the air of this program, the atmosphere, is kind of scary. It is not scary. The purpose of the program is to make the community at large aware of the nature of the problem, and the last thing I or anybody else want to do is conduct a witch hunt on the user who, for whatever reason, became involved in the drug situation. What I am suggesting is that more effort in communication between adults, everyone involved, to encourage this young person to at least get their thinking straight and realize the dangers. I think ultimately the young people of this or any other community are sufficiently with it to realize that once they're aware of the dangers involved and what it means to them in terms of their lifestyle and their life hopes, that they will come to, in 99 cases out of 100, the kind of decision which will be satisfactory to everybody. However, I'm a little bit at a loss about your own attitude about the guy who may be peddling the drugs.
Well, I don't have any feeling for him. Like I know it's wrong, but I think it's the kind of thing they're not out to make. You're not out to shoot you if you go up and talk to them. Like they're usually people that are honestly searching. Like they're not like down in Vancouver. It's a different thing altogether.
You mean the pushers in Nelson are benevolent people?
Well, they're not hateful or anything like this. They don't realize they're doing anything wrong. They're just the kids up at the high school and the kids on the street. Like they're selling to each other and talking to each other and doing all this thing. It's not a.
But they must be making a considerable amount of money if, as you say, in your estimation, 2,000 people are users and just floating around the city and kind of wheeling and dealing.
Well, I'd say 2,000 people are dealing too.
Pardon?
Though that's the thing. Like there's no. like everybody's sort of doing it. Like, you know, one week this guy's doing it, and the next week the next guy's doing it, and he's not anymore. It's a ring around the rosy thing, and yet it's not one person doing the whole thing.
But you've got to admit that if this many people are involved in the drug scene in Nelson or in any other community, and the fact that, as you say, the pushers are kind of a happy-go-lucky bunch of benevolent guys who change from time to time, where do they get all this stuff? Where does it come from? Somebody must be supplying it.
Well,
Somebody must be bringing it in.
That's where you get, say, someone in Vancouver, you know. But it's not a Nelson area. Like if like that, those maybe those are the hard rock people. But the people that are, say, getting arrested all the time are just the people on the streets, and they're not making that much money, because the money they make they usually put back in for themselves.
To obtain more supplies.
Well, for their own supply. Like, when you get that many, there's so much around that nobody, you know, you can't do it that much.
So what you're saying is that they're using the money they get from other people to support their own habits.
Well, I wouldn't put it that way, because.
Well, listen, seeing as I'm pleased you did call up, but I have another question for you. Do you have a solution to this problem? How would you suggest that these benevolent persons who are peddling be prevented from peddling?
Well, I want to say something first, that I wouldn't say they're, you know, you're making it a little bit weird, benevolent and everything. Like, I think it's more of a, like, everyone, like, when they say the younger generation says something's wrong with the society, you always say, before you tear it down, let's put something in there constructive. Have an answer for it before you tear it down. And I think that if you gave them that kind of an act before, instead of just saying stop and give them something, I think it'd make a big difference. Like, you have to have a constructive attitude towards it. Like, just don't rip it down, because it's a lot of people, that's the only thing they have. I'm not saying it's a good thing to have, but, you know, when you're in that state, say you're addicted to something, or just mentally addicted to something.
Okay, if you've got two types of addiction, you've got your physical and your psychological addiction. Okay, now if a person is addicted to one of these drugs or chemicals or whatever, there is not, and I can say this in truth because I've met all of the persons involved in this community, there is not an agency in this town who will not seriously, without hassling these people or anything like that, and genuinely, if they really wish to have help, they can get it in this or any other community. And nobody is trying to tear down their culture. What everybody is becoming concerned about, including some of the users, I mean, you took the trouble of, you've obviously been involved in drugs at one time. You've obviously kicked them, you know, which is good. I don't know whether you have or you're not. I'm assuming so.
I have.
But it is the threat to the younger people, and something must be done to make the younger people aware of the dangers inherent in the problem. The other thing is this. I personally, you know, if this is the philosophy of the drug user who wishes to continue to use drugs, and, you know, they have their own philosophy, they wish to ignore the rest of society, I say, be my guest, do it, but don't corrupt the remainder, and I would rather you went and did it somewhere else. It's a rather large country.
Okay, we do have to leave you now, and thank you very much for your call on the program this morning. We have a message right now.
Stretch your food dollar today. Everyday low food prices await you at Overweighty on Vernon Street. Heinz Baby Food, Strainer Junior, 4 for 55 cents. Monarch Cake Mixes, the 5-pouch pack, $1. Romper Dog Food, 6 15-ounce tins for 75 cents. These and many other great specials are featured today at Overweighty, the food store on Vernon Street.
Hi, Mr. Andrews.
Hi, Mike. Fill it up, please.
Sure thing. Say, does your car always dip like that when you put the brakes on?
Yeah, now that you mention it, I've noticed it happening a lot lately. And the car seems to be harder to control going around corners, too. What do you think?
Well, sounds like bad shock absorbers to me. Why not let me give you a free safety check? And if you need new shocks, I'll install a set of Monroe's.
Who?
Monroe shock absorbers. Best in the business. They'll give you a better ride, better braking, and more positive traction, because they keep all 4 wheels on the ground.
Are good shock absorbers that important?
They are, believe me. And besides, with Monroe shocks, you get a 60-day free ride.
Oh, really? What's all that about?
Well, it's part of the Monroe Challenge. They dare you to compare Monroe. You drive with Monroe shocks for 60 days, and if you don't think you're getting a safer ride, better handling, and better performance, well, I put back your old shocks and give you your money back.
Sounds like I can't lose.
Mr. Andrews, when you put your money on Monroe, there's no way you can lose.
You're listening to 1390 Radio, CKKC in Nelson. It's 15 before 10, and we'll be back to the open line in just a moment.
They have tickets for Nelson Kiwanis' $5,000 cash bingo, Albert's Barbershop, Dave's Meat Market, Andy's Tire, Cutler's News, Ted Allen's Jewelry, Max Furnishings. Proceeds to Kiwanis Projects.
Back once again to the open line, and the line is open right now, 352-2666, 35-22266. We invite your calls on the show this morning. Our guest on the program, Mr. Frank Brady from the Nelson Crisis Center. I have a call, I think, coming through right now. Good morning, the open line.
Good morning.
Yes, sir.
First of all, I'd like to compliment Mr. Brady and his staff. Okay. I think they're doing a good job. They made a fine start in this community in a rather much-needed direction. And I have a question for Mr. Brady. We often hear it said that the schools could help, perhaps, in dealing with this problem. But from past performance, it seems that they don't have a proven record in any programs towards prevention of anything. They appear to reflect the state of society rather than to offer it any solutions.
Yes, I would agree with you.
And my question would be, how do you think then that the schools might effectively be brought into any program at this time?
I think that the first thing that should happen in the schools is that whatever they've done in the past 10 years, forget it. The other thing that must come about is there must be a change in the attitude of administrations and staffs in connection with this problem. It is not possible, I think personally, to give the information that is necessary to the young people in a straight lecture-type setting in a classroom or in an auditorium. I think it has to be on a communication two-way kind of a deal, on a discussion deal. I don't think it should be the kind of situation where they're going to devote, say, a period of a day or or so many periods a week. I think that they should look and examine very carefully at the persons on the staffs who have rapport with young people, and there are very, very many of these people in our schools, and that these are the persons who should primarily be involved in this type of counseling on an informative basis. But the big but is, as far as I'm concerned, that they should allow the young people to come back with as much or more feedback than they are giving out. Now, this is something that does not normally happen in school situations. It's rather unfortunate. As you say, the proven record in this or any other is not that brilliant. But so I think they have to be capable at this time of forgetting the accepted mode.
A scare type program.
Pardon?
I'd say this couldn't be a scare type of program.
No, it must not be a scare. They must remove the punitive aspects from it. It must be done openly, and it must be done honestly, on a straight, feed-out, feedback situation. And I think that if you place young people in this kind of environment, I taught in public schools in this province. It was my privilege for a number of years. And I feel very, very strongly that it is possible to get these people feeding back. But the person who is involved with them must be sufficiently honest. There must be no hypocrisy surrounding it. They must remove the punitive aspects of the program and allow the young people to come forward on a realistic basis. I think that something along these lines, and I think our educators should be sufficiently innovative to attempt to do something like this. And the sooner they do it, the better. Also, it should be a long-term project. It should not be something that will happen, say, for a month or 2 months. I think it should be part of the day-to-day kind of a thing. One of the situations that I suggested to some of our educators who are indeed interested here in Nelson is that start at grade 1. You're equipping these people for their life, for their future, which may happen long after we've left the scene. You also have to make them aware of all of the dangers inherent in our society. And so you must give them the full information and be open about it. But do it on a short-term basis each day. If a question should arise, answer truthfully. If you do not have the answer to that question at that time, answer equally as truthfully that you do not have this answer, but that you will seek and find it out and get the cooperation of the young people in seeking and finding out these answers. I think you can mobilize an awful lot of interest in the schools from students, student-oriented and directed interest in this kind of thing. And this must happen. Student participation must come about.
I see. Thank you very much, Mr. Brady. I'd like to hear more on this later, but I'll hang up and let another talk.
Thank you very much, sir, for your call. And we'll take a break right now for these words.
Up to 30% off during Nelson Home Furniture stock reduction sale. Top quality Chesterfield suites. They're stock full. There's sure to be a combination to suit your taste. And here's an extra offer. Can't sag Chesterfield suites from Tynan, a very special 25% off. There's free delivery, and terms are available. Nelson Home Furniture, the store with the furnishing touch. Up to 30% off during their stock reduction sale. Visit them now.
You get a lot to enjoy from Safeway.
Shop and save today at Safeway in Nelson. Allen's fruit drinks, orange or grape, 3 48-ounce tins, 89 cents. Pork loin chops, center cut rib, 1 pound for 99 cents. Costa Rica bananas, 7 pounds for $1. Today at Safeway.
You get a lot to enjoy from Safeway. You get a lot to enjoy from Safeway.
Back once again to the open line. We have a caller waiting. Good morning, the open line.
Hello, may I go off the air, please?
I beg your pardon?
Could I take this call off the air?
I'm afraid we don't have time to take calls off the air, ma'am. If perhaps you'd like to call back just shortly after 10 o'clock, I presume you want to talk to Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Or perhaps you could contact him at the Crisis Center. The number there is...
You can contact us on 2018. Ask for me by name, and I'll certainly be very happy to talk to you, ma'am.
2018, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. Yes, I might remind our listeners that we don't take any calls off the air on the program, and if you wish to talk to our guest, we must do it on the air. Okay, 352-2666. Another caller coming through right now. Good morning, the open line.
Yes, I'd just like to say thank you to the boy who took the time to call in and talk about something that a lot of parents are very nervous about. And I just think he's great for calling in like this and saying that there are some concerned teenagers. Because most of them think if you want it, you can get it. If you don't want it, nobody's going to bother you. But that's not the way we parents feel. We're scared for our kids.
Yes, ma'am. I talked to this young chap yesterday on the phone. I invited him to call back this morning because I felt his views should be heard by the public.
Well, as a parent, I want to say to him, thanks, I know you'll do the right thing if you come across one of our kids.
Well, that's good. I hope so, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you very much for your call, then.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. We have time, I think, for 1 or 2 more callers if we get those calls in very quickly. 352-2666, our number on the open line. Good morning, the open line.
Hello. I'd like to agree with Mr. Brady concerning the programs in the schools. I feel that it should be started at grade 1, and even before grade 1, there should be classes for the parents to start on at home. And this should be a program of an alternative to drugs, something for the young people to look forward to be that would be better than drugs.
Yes, I would agree with that.
That's my feelings on this.
As I pointed out yesterday morning, the program cannot be it's not just young people, it is the whole community.
Yes.
There are many, many, many concerned parents. And until these parents become involved, these are their children, these are the children of this community, they love them. If they don't care sufficiently for these children to do something about it, then who in the name of God is going to do something for them?
That's true.
And
but
so... Yes, carry on.
If there would be a program in the schools, an educational program for adults, for preschool children even.
Yes, I agree.
Before grade 1.
Yes, it should embrace the parents and the younger children. I don't think it's too young to start this kind of thing.
Yes, I feel it's more of a morality, like at the root of it, than anything else.
Right.
A moral, what you can say, a falling apart of all moral values.
Yes, I understand what you mean. This is why yesterday I asked, and I'm going to repeat it right now, when the persons who are concerned about this, talk to your neighbors, talk to everybody, and please, please, please phone an alderman, a member of the city council, phone a member of the school board.
Yes.
There are 9 members of the school board.
Yes.
Don't waste the time of the persons who are employed in the offices. They can do very little at this stage.
Yes.
The programs that must be initiated in this community must come about as a result of parent concern to the council and to the school board, because these are the elected officials and they can give the directions to the persons in both public areas of the community and in our educational system.
And also, I think one place to start first is one thing that was mentioned a week or so ago about young people being seen in beer parlors. I think that I don't know who can do anything about it, whether it's police or city council or who should make the rules strictly obeyed.
Yes, I agree.
Young people should not be allowed in, and that's one place to start.
Yes, it is. I agree, ma'am.
Because that's a drug problem just as well.
Yes.
Thank you very much, then.
Thank you very much for your call, ma'am. And I see we're gradually running out of time again on the program today. Just before we close, though, Frank, we might mention to our listening audience that there's a considerable amount of literature available on this subject, and I think each and every one of us, whether he be adult or young person, should get a hold of this literature and become more informed, more educated on the subject, and thereby being better equipped to deal with the problem. Now, there is literature available from the Department of National Health and Welfare, I believe it is. Is this correct, Frank?
Yes. The Honorable John Monroe, Minister of National Health and Welfare, Ottawa. If you just write there, there's lots of some really good booklets, but become involved in your community for your children. This is the only answer, I think, in Nelson at this time.
Right, and I might also mention at this time there's some very, very good information and literature available too, free of charge, incidentally, if you'd care to write to Ambassador College in Vancouver at Post Office Box 44, Station A. They have a considerable amount of literature on the subject of drug addictions and so on and so forth. So, as we say, literature is available, and we do hope that the public will take it upon themselves to obtain it as soon as possible. Frank, we have run out of time once again on the show. It's been a pleasure to have you on the program for the past 2 days, and I do hope that what we've discussed during these past 2 days has been of an informative and helpful nature to our listening audience.
Well, that was the intent, Joan. At this time, I would like to thank CKKC and Joe Evans, the staff of the radio station, and everyone in Nelson for the cooperation. We are trying to do our best on your behalf. We would now ask you to become involved for the sake of the community and your children. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you very much, Frank. And we are out of time on the program for another day and another week. Your host here, Little Joe Evans. We'll be back again Monday morning at 9 o'clock. Do it all over again at that time. Have yourself a good weekend.